Welcome back to another episode of Bingeing While Black. We're going to be picking up with our last conversation with Star Wars. What did we leave off with? What episodes would you kind of talk about?
We only talked about episode 1 and 2.
Gotcha, just 1 and 2. So we'll be picking up with episode 3 and moving forward from there. So Renee, what kind of topics did you want to talk about this time around?
I guess how episode 3 is how everyone's like predetermined notion of how they assume things would go, like if they had a pessimistic outlook. That's essentially what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the ones perpetuating it. So like Anakin perpetuating his vision, the second one that undoubtedly, led to children dying. He was the person hurting Padme.
Yeah.
In the sense. And then every Jedi that doubted Anakin from the moment they even knew he existed got essentially what they wished for. Like, he became someone who they should fear and someone that was a threat. All because they didn't really show him no love growing up.
Yeah, I mean...
It was their prejudice that got in the way of getting him the things he needed.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, like, their hubris in like their shock of how he reacted when, I guess when he turned. They didn't expect him to turn. They were just hoping that he wouldn't because of all the growth. But like, they were also really touch and go when it came to him and his relationship to Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
So it just didn't seem like they moved in their best interest when it came to Anakin.
Yeah, I would say it was mostly because they were stuck in their ways, like you were saying. And they just couldn't really adapt to new situations. So that really gets into these self-fulfilling prophecies. And it kind of goes both ways with Anakin, like him being the cause of Padme's death and the cause of all the Jedi death because of his vision. That was him fulfilling his own prophecy.
With his paranoia.
And then the Jedi, with them, their isolation of Anakin was what caused him to go down to the dark side. The very thing that they were trying to prevent him from doing, they essentially did themselves.
Also from their own paranoia.
Yeah, from their own paranoia and hypocritical nature, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Like, I forget the TikToker's name. I don't know why I keep forgetting her, but she had an AMC commercial. Do you remember when we walked in, we saw her? Like, hey, this girl from TikTok.
Oh, you talking about Nicki Marina?
Yes. I remember not too long ago, she posted a video of like that encounter where Anakin and Kenobi are in the volcano, and Kenobi responded to what Anakin said with only Sith deal in absolutes. And I was like, that's an absolute. And I'm like, yeah, that was hella Jedi right there.
Yeah, Jedi 100% hypocritical. Like they hit you with the double standards like crazy, and it kept going even further, even into like episode like 4 through 6, with them like, oh, Luke, you got to kill Anakin, you got to kill Darth Vader, not telling him that is his father. And they just didn't want to tell him just because if he knew that was his father, he wouldn't kill him. With that being said, even later on when Luke was like, hey, I think there's still good in my father. I don't think we need to kill him. I think I can reach him. They were like, nah, you gotta kill him. We gotta kill him. He's evil. You have to kill him. That's an absolute. Stop being hypocritical.
So I have a radical thought about the Jedi. It could be a metaphor or a different way of seeing like whiteness. Or moving within the white society as a white person. Specifically because I feel like the Jedi Order were the example of peace that the rest of the galaxy followed. So at some point, that peace was disrupted by a Sith, in whatever way. But within that span of time where the Jedi were the example of peace and how order should be, certain things started to build, kind of like how in America, or really in anywhere where whiteness was considered a real thing, they started either they would start tearing down cultures that were already there, and start moving in like this philosophical, spiritual kind of manipulation tactic. So like Anakin,
Mm-hmm.
he's the outlier. He well, at least one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The major one, really, because he's the most dangerous at this point. But him as the outlier, meaning he wasn't. He was emotionally manipulated. He was emotionally neglected. They didn't really give him his due when it came to like his skills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they didn't think that he was the opposite of the chosen one, I don't think they would have treated him the same way.
So you're trying to say like if he wasn't as gifted, they wouldn't have gave him a hard time?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, honestly, if he wasn't as gifted as he was, he probably wouldn't even got into the Jedi Order. I think what really helped him out was in like that first movie when he took down that blockade.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really kind of this kid got skills. We might need to have him on board. And Qui-Gon just died, so let's honor his memory. So win-win kind of situation. But we'll keep an eye on him because he a loose cannon. That's at least how I look at it.
I understand that, but I mean, like, without that prophecy, is what I'm saying. So without that prophecy, thus understanding his depth and like in his power, would they have just?
Oh, they wouldn't have given him a chance. They wouldn't even looked at him.
What do you mean?
Like without the prophecy,
yes,
without that even being a consideration, there would have been no way they would have had Anakin come into the Order.
Why?
Because he was too old. That's literally it. There was the prophecy and Qui-Gon dying for him that allowed him to get into it.
So their philosophical mindset wouldn't have, picked up this kid that's got a talent for the Force.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, for them, because the reason why the Jedi always take children, like young children, like infants, is because they haven't developed any attachment. So essentially, it's like they can mold them into the Jedi that they want them to be.
That's such a weird... Like, it's indoctrination.
Yeah.
But it's strategic in a way, like, I can only imagine that's necessary when you're preparing for war.
I mean, it was not so much war. It's think of the Jedi as a cult. They're just plucking the members, the people of society that would benefit them the most. That's all.
And you don't think a highly special, skilled...
If they were too old, no. Like Mace Windu and Yoda both come from like cultures or planets where everybody is Force sensitive. Mace Windu's brother in the Shatterpoint book is actually more Force sensitive than him.
Yeah, the Jedi Order could have been a metaphor for adhering to the social standards of whiteness, and Anakin being the outlier. He's essentially the school shooter archetype. He, as an individual, experiences... So far, his experience has been that he has been deprived things that, if not for the way that his power manifests, he would be a master or a knight at this point. He was told that he can't reciprocate feelings for Padme, or just a lot of shit that any human should be able to, any person should be able to experience. But Anakin is defecting from the Jedi Order and thus the ideals from what they are. So, honestly, if I was defecting from the Jedi Order, it'd be more akin to Ahsoka. Like, I don't feel like I need to go full Sith. Like, power isn't really what I thought he was after. It didn't make sense to me that he went all the way. Well, because the thing he was fearing was Padme's and his family's death, but he perpetuated that. So,
well, he didn't know he was going to perpetuate that. So,
well, yeah, but I mean, after he realized, I just accused Padme and choked her out. I'm the reason that she's like this. Why didn't he make that connection? Like, I perpetuated my own anger, my own fear. Why would I go all the way? Is it self-punishment? I don't understand.
Narcissism. That's all it was.
That's all it is?
It's narcissism, yeah.
Narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. Even though he's been given a hard time, even though like he never gets recognition from the Jedi,
He still knows he's the shit.
he still believes he's the chosen one, and he pretty much knows that he's that nigga. Like you can't take that away from that. He knows that he gets the job done. Like there's no doubt in that. And what he's not getting from the Jedi, he's getting from Palpatine. So
Is he though?
yes, Palpatine has painted Anakin as the hero of the Republic. Palpatine is always on his side when the Jedi are not.
That's what he wanted?
That's what he wants. He wants someone on his side. Remember we were talking about Obi-Wan never just saying, good job, you did good? Palpatine is the one that does that. Palpatine is the one that's like, you're great. You know, everything you're doing is great. He's pushing him, you know, by being in his corner. That's why Anakin confides in him so much, and that's why he trusts him so that Palpatine, you know, can use him as the hero, and that inflates his ego even further. Yeah, it's a lot. You seem overwhelmed, my friend.
I'm annoyed.
But yeah, but moving on. One of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up was that when we were watching like the Bad Batch and Andor and kind of seeing the Empire kind of take shape, I couldn't help but notice that it looked kind of like colonization. You know, they would come in to these planets. You would see them either build their base into a mountain or dig a giant hole and build a base into the actual earth itself, uprooting the indigenous people and destroying the environment through through that region. So like when we're watching Andor, remember when they went back to his planet and he essentially saw the destruction from their mining? And then we also seeing similar in Andor again when they broke out of prison and they saw those two natives and they were like, oh, they got rid of all the squigglies. The Empire polluted all the water. Remember that? Like that kind of shows similar to what happens during colonization. They were uprooting the people, killing all the livestock. So one of the reasons why we don't see buffalo anymore because of the overhunting. Kind of like the squigglies that are no longer on that planet anymore. We saw that whole group of people that were displaced, and they had to walk, miles and to get to their one spot so they can have their celebration. They wouldn't have normally had to do that before, but now they have to make a giant pilgrimage just to do that. And along the way, they set up places to distract and deter them from actually making that trip. So I think, just saying that there's like a clear, I would say, comparison or a clear exaggeration of colonization within the Star Wars franchise.
Especially since the Empire is designed after the Nazi regime. You have to pay attention to how the Nazis basically modeled their takeover model over how America was colonized and how efficient they were in rewriting the culture. So you can, as you parallel the Empire and how they take over to colonization, you also have to bring in, not also, but it's tying in all the visuals of like this dank, colorless, really strict, hard-lined edge of a society. And yeah, colonization kind of means that you're stripping things of its culture, you're stripping things of all the things that make it unique, and implementing things that either you need or want out of something until it's completely gone.
Yeah, and I think that's also very apparent in the design of the Empire. They use the same ships as the Republic, but you see how they're all the same color. They're all this just matte gray. But when they were in the Republic, they at least had different colors to their ships to indicate the different teams. Even the giant Star Destroyers, they had a giant red stripe in the middle of them. Even though that's not a huge difference, but they had something to kind of make them distinct and show some sort of individuality. But now everything is just white, gray, and black.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
My radical idea for the Jedi being a representation of how people can defect from whiteness is very much more present in the Empire kind of thing. But you don't really see people defecting unless their lives are in danger. Instead of like moral reasoning, which is why a lot of people defect from the Jedi Order. Where was I going with this? Yes. Okay. Yes. That's why the Nazi regime, they were just whiteness and incarnate. Although, I thought it was interesting, the Empire didn't really try to start making their own cult, which I feel like would have been a really interesting... you made a face. Like they actually did, and I don't know anything about it.
I don't know if they're doing it yet, but like, do you remember in Andor where that girl where the governor's daughter was like praying, was in like church group, and they were like, she's really latched on to it?
I thought that was because of the planet they were from.
I think so too, but I think like the way she kind of made it seem like it's come so strong and she's really latched on to it. I don't know. I just feel like there might be some kind of sinister dark side thing going on.
That makes sense. It felt very much like the Protestant church.
Yeah.
And well,
it felt like the church that burned people for being witches. That's what it felt like.
Yes. Because it felt like her daughter felt like a threat.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. She gave such a weird vibe, and it didn't make sense.
Yes, it did.
I mean, it felt like she was poisoned, though.
What do you mean?
Because it didn't, like, when she was upset with her mom, right? Like, her mom was legitimately trying to be in her life as a mother. And she was rejecting her mother's every turn.
That wasn't because of the religion.
No, I'm not saying that was because of the religion, but I'm saying just her in general. I think something like was poisoning her. Like either it was the being in Coruscant so close to the Empire, the Emperor and his darkness, or just being around her father who supports, the Empire.
I think that's the key part.
But I'm saying, like, I feel like the way kind of Star Wars, they kind of make it seem the dark side infects people, and just talking about something related to them infects more people, especially if they're easily impressionable.
Well, yes. Don't they just target people's greed, their vanity, their pride, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
That is an infectious thing. Like, when can you ever confront somebody about how you hurt them or how they hurt you or whatever scenario happens and someone doesn't get defensive? That's pride. And then when it comes to the fucking pandemic, so you would think that you would, try to hoard food. Instead, they ran to the first technical luxury that we have, toilet paper.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing ever.
Exactly. And then just, if you think about how the apocalypse will go, let me be more specific. If a zombie apocalypse happens, who would you be most afraid of? The zombies or the people?
Oh, the people, 100%.
Exactly. It's an innate thing that all people possess. So to say that it's infectious, I don't know. I think it activates. I think if you give a person an example of getting the things that are like a guilty pleasure or something that they've been told that they shouldn't really go for, or something that they've always wanted and they have a out for it or a way to get it, and it only takes a little bit of a moral, corruption. I think it's more of an awakening rather than like an infection.
I never thought about it like that.
Because that's why the Jedi wanted people without attachments, or people who formed attachments, I should say.
Yeah, so they could basically mold them to what they wanted to be. Yeah.
What are we on that? The Rebels, or are we still talking about episode 3?
No, we're kind of moved on past episode 3. We're kind of like episode 4-ish and moving on towards stuff like that.
We're already on episode 4?
Well, we were talking about Bad Batch and Andor, which is like before episode 4.
Okay.
So we're kind of moving in that direction.
Got you. Okay. Fuck Crosshair. Fuck him. Fuck that nigga.
Yeah, you know, he's dumb as fuck. He had so many opportunities. We were on a platform. There's only one ship out. Let's go. Come on, bro. Let's go. But no. He decided to stay, what? It was like 32 rotations on a platform and was like,
No,
I'm
Derek,
still.
I'm talking about the beginning.
Oh, shit.
I'm talking about the beginning of Bad Batch.
Are you talking about like the very beginning?
The very fucking beginning.
Okay.
I just don't understand. Oh, no, I do. I literally just explained it.
Mm-hmm.
How the dark side awakens that part of a person, and I'm like, if you actually value the people around you,
mm-hmm.
one, you wouldn't make yourself a victim because they decided to, you know, survive and live. Because like in the beginning, it made it look like they made it. I mean, obviously they made it look like the chip in his head was forcing him to carry out Order 66. But then, as time goes by, you start to realize he still maintains his personality,
mm-hmm.
whereas everyone else is a jackass. Very short, but he still has his wits and like I don't know how to explain it. He just has himself.
Yeah, he still has a personality,
which made me believe, oh, this nigga is choosing
mm-hmm.
at this point to just kill Jedi and uphold this order because he feels he needs this recognition from either. Well, no, he doesn't need it from his fellow clones. He's already accepted that he won't get that, but he would like to be accepted by these people who will only give that kind of thing to a tool that they then will soon throw out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, you see it, and you still betray your brothers and your sister because you need more people than them to say you're worth something? How ridiculous. Fuck him.
Yeah, I mean, he's perpetually like that guy that has to prove something. That's it. Like, he has to prove that he's worth something. He gets his self-worth from other people. And I feel like it was just because he never felt like he fully fit in anywhere.
He had a full batch of people that were different like him.
And I felt like even in some ways, he felt himself different from them. Even, I think that became really apparent to him during Order 66. Crosshair, I feel like because he always wanted to prove himself better than the normal clones, and he wanted to prove that he could be a leader better than Hunter, that's why he kept doubling down on the Empire. Because he was like, well, listen, I'm special. I'm better than the regular clones. I can show them. And then he is like, oh, Hunter, you're being a bad leader. You know, you should be following orders. I know what's right. And if I continue to do what the Empire wants, I'll show you that I was right. I'll show the other clones that I'm better than them. I won't get decommissioned. That's basically his entire thing. He sees where that leads him.
So people like him, there's a character in a musical. You don't watch musicals. You don't like musicals.
I don't fuck with musicals at all.
But it's from Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
People like Crosshair remind me of how. I need to look up his name because he's an historical figure and like a part of the American Revolution history, etc. So forth. His last name is Burr.
Mm-hmm.
In the Hamilton play, the way he was represented was that when he had the opportunity, he took Alexander Hamilton's father-in-law's spot in the Senate by changing political parties. And his whole shtick was talk less, smile more, don't let the people know what you're for or what you're not for. It's something like that. And to me, that's how Crosshair operated for a very long time, if your theory was correct. He never expressed what he was for or what he was against while he was taking orders from the Jedi. So, at least with your perspective on how his mental state was up until the point where Order 66 was ordered. Does that make sense?
Kind of, but I feel like his mental state really kind of came to a head during Order 66 because I feel like he didn't really have a problem with Hunter fully until Order 66 happened, until there was a difference in their objective.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, because they were with the Jedi and they weren't about, world domination, he had to keep what he was for out of his mouth.
I don't think he was ever for world domination. He was just for an order. Didn't really matter which one it was. They were the ones, actually giving him orders. That's the one who he should be obeying. So I don't think to him he saw there was a difference.
It wasn't about the objective. It was more so about his opportunity to gain recognition.
Yeah. So what I meant by objective, I kind of meant like Hunter. Like, wait, we shouldn't just kill the Jedi because that's what's told to us. We have no real reason to do so. But Crosshair was like, it's an order. Just do it. That's what I meant by like their objectives were different. So
okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
So yeah, not so much he wanted to rule the world. He was still thinking.
Nothing changed for him.
Nothing changed. The Republic, Empire, they're the same thing. These are the same people giving me the same order.
Yeah, I think I would have killed him.
Yeah, I would have killed him too.
The amount of short-sightedness that he had cannot be just left to. Mm-hmm. You're like, you're my brother. I'm gonna just let you go. You choose your own path. No, he puts you in danger.
Yeah, he does. He's a liability.
Exactly.
And they should definitely have killed him. That's what I would have done.
Although Omega would have been really sad.
Okay, that's our problem.
That's another thing. Omega was a problem. Omega was supposed to be like her being a clone was supposed to be a huge reveal, right?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't that big of a reveal.
Like
it was pretty obvious.
Exactly. Why? Not to mention, what did I say to you the other time? Like we were asking, why does she have like an Australian accent?
Yeah. Why does she have an Australian accent?
And
it makes no sense.
My reasoning, because I want to fill in as many holes for Star Wars as possible. Was that they wanted to give you a bit of a clue to who she was before she even announced what she was, or they announced what she was. Because New Zealand and Australia, they're not interchangeable whatsoever, but they're so close to each other in accent that you would have made the connection, especially since you work so closely with clones, and how we know Boba Fett's a person.
Hard fail, because
not to mention, no, go on. I'm sorry.
No, because it's just a hard fail because, like, the clones don't sound like they're from Australia or New Zealand. They have a nondescript accent. I didn't really hear anything like...
The clones sound like they're from New Zealand to me.
I didn't really hear anything, honestly. Okay, they just sound like normal guys. It didn't sound really like it was from anywhere. To be honest, not to me anyway, but like hers is distinctly Australian. Like she's from the outback. I'm expecting her to go wrestle some kangaroos or some shit.
Well, yeah, she was a problem.
Yeah.
Actual liability on the ship. Didn't listen to a damn thing. Like I get it, you're a curious kid. You ain't. I think what bothered me was that she's lived longer than these guys. And she still caused as much havoc as a person who looks her age.
Yes, she's lived longer than him, but the experience level is two different things.
Really? Because it looked like she was being brought around different experiences all the time.
Well, she was around other clones, but she never left Kamino for her entire life until the Empire came into being.
Interesting.
Meaning she never actually seen any of the things that anyone's explained. Remember when she went to that new planet for the first time and she saw grass and she was like, yo, what the fuck is this? That's grass? Nigga, what? So...
She's never faced mortal danger before.
Hell.
She didn't know what playing was.
Yeah, she didn't know what playing was. How sheltered can you be?
But even so, that brings us back to the accent thing. If no one else around you speaks like an Australian, why do you have that accent?
Do you see why I'm so confused? Because it makes no sense.
Unless she inherited it through her genes.
From who? Crocodile Dundee? Like, there is nobody there.
I will say she was used as a very nice way to move the plot forward, especially since the Empire was hunting her.
Yeah, I mean, she was a good plot device. Usually the trouble that she got herself into, she would usually kind of figure out a way to get herself out of. So that was cool, but she caused way more headaches than needed to be. Their missions could have been way more simpler.
If she just listened.
If she just stayed her ass on the ship like she was told.
But then again, at some point, she started saving their asses because she didn't stay on the ship.
Yeah.
So you can't really be mad at that point. But it does tell me she's more like the other clones than they really gave her credit for in the beginning.
Yeah, I think they were definitely like a sexism in it. Like, you're a little girl, you shouldn't be in danger.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think because she didn't follow orders, she did continue like to prove herself to them that she was capable. Because by season 2, she was doing things on her own. They were giving her tasks to do, important, dangerous tasks. So she kind of did prove herself and grew from all of her mistakes.
Exactly. I think she was the best example of like character growth that I've seen since Ahsoka.
That's giving her a lot of credit.
Really?
Yeah, that's giving her a lot of credit.
I don't think so.
I feel like it is.
I don't know. Because if you think about the parameters of what that type of clone was supposed to be, she's way out of bounds.
I mean, well, she's with a group of people that are way out of bounds.
That's my point.
Yeah.
You start from a lab clone. It has the same settings not maybe the same settings as Boba Fett, but has the same DNA, the same kind of drive, the same kind of adventurous personality, spontaneous. But you never got to experience that because you were in the lab all this time. And now all of a sudden you get the opportunity to go out there. Granted, you almost die at least a half a dozen times within 3 episodes, but you grow after that point. You get your own little bow, and then you can defend yourself, and you can actually protect your family. And then I would say it's a lot of growth in what was it, 3 or 5 seasons?
It was 2 seasons.
It was 2 seasons, right? Because they left on a cliffhanger for the 3rd season.
Yeah, for the 2nd season. Yeah, you said 3rd season.
Yeah, because
so you mean
the
next
season
for next season? Gotcha. I mean, yeah, but I still don't see like, I don't know. I don't see the same level of growth.
I didn't say the same level.
You did.
I said no. I didn't. I said I haven't seen growth like it.
Okay.
Like the way that they grew the character wasn't the same for every character. Like you'd see Ahsoka grow up with Anakin. Not the same way, but the way that they built their characters was very...
Okay, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Okay.
It was nice.
Yeah.
What I'm saying.
I can see, okay. So you're just saying in terms of just growing a character.
Yes, in terms of just growing a character.
I'm thinking you meant like...
No, they are very different people.
No, that. I'm just saying. I thought you were talking about like, Ahsoka... went through whatever she had to go through in 7 seasons, and like she did it in 2. I'm like, no,
absolutely not. Even. I couldn't. What was it? Was it a 3-episode series where they were chasing her?
Oh, you mean the
in Clone Wars?
Yeah.
How long was it? Like 3 episodes?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
She hasn't experienced that in 1 season.
Oh, hell no. I don't even think Omega would survive something like
that. Exactly. So, no, they are not in the same caliber. I'm saying I like that kind of character building where I can actually see them progressing.
Okay, I got you.
Because a lot of the time, it's a switch. Like, they have this aha moment, and then suddenly they're like... they're overpowered, or they have all the answers to whatever, or they no longer like jittery, or they're not fucking up as much anymore. And granted, that can happen, but it doesn't feel realistic. It's more like if something like that were to happen, where you had an aha moment, I feel like you should be able to have that aha moment and just take a step forward. Which means that doesn't look like, oh, you didn't know how to pilot before, now you know how to pilot. No, it looks like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm going to press these buttons. Oh, that shouldn't be pressed kind of situation. But I guess for the pacing of like the scenario for the aha moment, because they usually happen in the 11th hour, you don't really have time for that. But with a series like in Ahsoka and with Omega, you have progression. You have time for progression.
Yeah, no. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think they did that with
Because the majority of Star Wars stuff is movies.
Movies, yeah. So yeah, no, I definitely think in that explanation, yeah, you're correct. And I agree that they do take their time to build characters, especially with the series, and they give enough time to build the world around them as well. So I got nothing else on that.
Oh.
Yeah. Moving on to the next topic.
It was the Bad Batch, and then what else? Andor?
I kind of already covered a lot of Andor. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Andor?
That I didn't. So I saw Rogue One a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Rogue One once a long time ago. So I didn't. When they announced the show for Andor, I didn't put two and two together. Plus, I also wasn't as much interested in Star Wars as I am in now. So when I saw him, I was just like, okay, this basic ass nigga, he's trouble. A little scallywag, another Aladdin character.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also had, I think he had a lot more opportunities to grow in his series.
Yeah, who he was in the beginning of the series was a lot different than who he was by the end of the series.
Exactly, because I remember you said something about how Andor, he's not so much of a frontline leader. He pushes people to be the leaders that they need to be, so that he doesn't have to be that.
Yep, exactly. That's basically his MO. He is definitely a shadow leader. I would kind of call him, like he's that man in the background running things.
I wouldn't say puppeteer, because I don't even think puppeteers would be in the same room with people that they're trying to push. But I don't know what you would call. I've never experienced that kind of character before, where they had, as a main character, for a main character to push another character into the front view in order to get shit done. Usually it's the main character like, fuck this, I'm doing it myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes him unique. You know, like that whole scene when they took over the prison, that whole prison thing was like my favorite episodes, were the prison episodes, and kind of building back off what you were talking about before of him being like pushing other people to be the leader, when he was like telling, like, when Kino's like, tell them what to do, they will listen to you. And even then we saw their dynamic kind of shift once that guy died and they found out that, oh yeah, they killed everybody on 2. So we gotta get out of here. And he's like, Kino's like, well, I don't know. No.
Because they fucked up.
Yeah, they fucked up. We have to go before they regroup, and then like pushing Kino to get everybody, come together to actually escape. So I think that's really unique about his character, which makes his series compelling to watch.
I think that was the best part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
The prison break was, not just the prison break, but the whole dynamic that like unfolded. I'm just baffled it wasn't for anything he actually did.
Oh, that was the craziest shit. I was like, how is your luck that bad? Because like for you to escape going to prison just to end up getting sent to prison on trumped up charges is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And I feel like Star Wars in its most recent content is leaning heavy, when talking about the Empire, is leaning heavy on the fact that the Nazis got their tactics from America as they were destabilizing the natives in their situation and destabilizing the Africans that they brought over, and they broke them and that kind of stuff. And then leaning heavy into America now, especially with those trumped up charges, and like how the fact that a lot of prisons use slave labor. So America's using slave labor for whatever product. I hate them. So we got a comment earlier about how we skate around certain topics. Like we touch on it, but we don't dig deeper into it. So like the prison thing and how we can compare it to the American prison system. I don't
see them as similar at all.
Why?
Well, for one, in the American prison system, it's not so much. It feels as though the fear and like the power dynamic comes from the prisoners. Like the prison system allows the prisoners to govern themselves in a way, like in terms of through gangs. and they just basically hold it together. In this, it felt.
I'm not talking about the structure of the prison.
I'm not talking like the physical structure. I'm talking about like the interpersonal.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying the way that the Empire is using prisons is very similar to how America uses prisons.
How so? Because I don't really see like American prisons, like them having labor.
What?
Like us getting like some military products from their labor.
I don't think they would put prisoners on military products. No, but that's more of a technological reason for why they're not on military grade stuff. But there are prisoners being used for slave labor, and there are prisoners that get trumped up charges just to be a slave.
I see what you're getting at. I still don't see it as the same thing in certain ways. The trumped up charges, yeah, that makes sense. But the slave labor part it doesn't seem like that's a thing yet here. I feel like, I guess what it is mostly an exaggeration. I guess it would be because I don't know. I haven't really been into a prison, so I can't say for sure. And I've seen documentaries, but it doesn't look like they're doing any like labor, like intensive labor now. But I guess in the past,
no, they're still doing those,
like minings and stuff like that.
Yes.
Here?
Yes.
I've never seen that. Like,
of course you wouldn't see it.
That's interesting. I thought those days were over.
No. they privatized, which made the focus more on the private sector. But what are they called? Do you remember the movie Life?
Yeah.
What did they call that version of prison? Chain something.
You're talking about a chain gang?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those still exist.
Oh, I thought those were a thing of the past.
No.
So I guess, yeah, in that case, then yeah, that would be a one-to-one comparison because that's essentially what they were.
And like all the labor here in the prison system isn't just chain gang. And granted, they do get paid, but it's more like pennies on the hour.
Yeah, I think that's where the exaggeration part comes in for like the Star Wars in terms of what they have to do because there was no end for them.
Right.
Yeah, so there was no payment. I guess, well, their payment was taste in their food.
Yes.
Incentive.
Horrendous.
Yeah, that was the one thing that's why I was like, I don't see that there's a difference. I felt like Star Wars wise, there was a lot more inhumane. Their treatment was a lot more inhumane. Because think about it, like their food supply was a tube that they slurped out of. You know, they had to be decontaminated as if they were contaminated animals or something. They were completely isolated from the guards unless they brought someone new in. In prisons, guards at least walk around. Prisoners can form relationships with guards and get information of the outside world. They didn't have that. Only time they got information from the outside world was when someone new came in.
True. And
then there was the prospect of, we find out that you don't get out. You just get transferred to another prison, and that's your life until you die.
I think so. That brings my point back into play about how prison system in Star Wars is used the same way as the prison system in the United States. I'm talking about all of time for United States. So, like, you're right. The treatment of these prisoners are so inhumane. It's more inhumane than this slavery aspect of like Anakin's upbringing was.
Yeah.
Which is what Black Americans don't really see what was slavery at the time. So like what they were experiencing, what Anakin was experiencing was more of a indebted servitude. But this prison system is more like chattel slavery.
Yeah, no, that is kind of what the Empire kind of thrived off of, was slavery, which is weird considering how much Anakin hated slavery. Like, he hated it. And which is weird that now that he's switched over to the dark side, he's like, hey, I'm cool with it now. Fuck it.
I think that's why I really don't like Anakin's character after he switches over, because it's like he said fuck it to everything, but instead of just rolling into the volcano, he was like, nah, let me anguish in pain. What, you dramatic fuck?
He is the drama.
Are his emotions the thing that connect him to the Force? Because it's the only way I can see how. Because I feel like his aptitude for the Force equates how emotional he gets.
Not really. It's just his emotions dictate which side of the Force he uses. So, like, using his passion and all that begets the dark side, essentially.
So what the hell do the Jedi fight with?
Faith.
In what? Themselves?
The Force. The Jedi think of the Jedi as like Shaolin Christian monks.
Ew.
Yeah, that's what they are.
No. So in thinking about when Star Wars came out in the 70s, is around the same time that D&D came out, right? And the idea of like that fantasy world being demonic, I feel like helped influence how people would view the light and the dark side. And I remember hearing a theory, well, not a theory, but like a comparison of Star Wars to the Bible.
Yeah, it's there.
So like,
I mean, you push anything hard enough, it's a comparison to the Bible, really.
I'm trying to think of like the most outlandish, but with the Bible.
He's Jesus. What are you talking about? It's really simple. He's this character that's different from everybody that can perform mighty miracles. He is Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean.
You stretch anything enough, there's a Bible comparison in there somewhere.
It's the epic. Forget what the stages of storytelling are, but it's just a classic story. Which brings me to my next point. There's no such thing as a chosen one, only a convenient one.
Oh, that's a hot take.
Why?
Because legitimately, George Lucas said that Anakin and his spawn were the chosen ones. So that is definitely a hot take on that. I do, however, think that. I don't know who said it, but someone said that everyone is the chosen one. I can't remember who he was. It was somebody on TikTok that I saw, but he was like,
oh, I was about to say Moses?
Nah, I can't remember. He does a lot of like mental health TikTok things, and I can't remember his name, unfortunately. But yeah, he was talking about how Anakin wasn't the chosen one because all the Jedi were the chosen one.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I think you sent it to me.
I probably did. I just can't remember what he was saying. But yeah. In a way, I think that mentality does kind of come through in some ways, because the Force itself, how it's kind of portrayed, everything that happens is through the will of the Force. So by extension, everyone is kind of a chosen one. Their actions are just an extension of the Force's will.
Yes. Bringing in another movie quote from an entirely different franchise.
Oh my
god. From The Incredibles. With everyone super.
Oh my god. No one will be. To the next topic, following up from that.
Do we have a next topic?
I do. So, kind of like what the Empire's treatment of stormtroopers.
Yes.
So, it's very reminiscent of how veterans are kind of treated in certain ways. Just kind of, not all veterans, but there are a large group of veterans that have been kind of mistreated by the government and not being taken care of in the way that they needed to be taken care of. And that's kind of what's mirrored in the Bad Batch, where as we see like the clones get decommissioned, they get mistreated with no way or no rights or no way to take care of themselves. You know,
they were deemed
obsolete. And there's even a point where we see that they have gear that those clones could use, but they were saving it for the stormtroopers. And they had the clones protecting this gear, unknowingly protecting this gear, and they were requesting new gear to help protect their gear, and they would not get, and they could not get it. They could not get the backup requested or any of the equipment requested to help protect the Empire, which is ridiculous. Because it's kind of like, you did all this work for us. You were good soldiers following the orders that we gave you, and we'd give you nothing for it.
It doesn't make sense to me, but if we look back on how we basically labeled the Jedi and the dark side, they're hubris. Like, yes, why would you mistreat an actual army of clones that you may deem dispensable or defective, but they're still capable? Why would you mistreat them? Like, at some point, a lot of them started to defect because they realized they were not safe under this regime. So they decided to protect each other, to protect themselves, which brings in my point. Even if you think that clones are just clones that are meant to follow orders, you've already seen that they've defected. In my mind, if you were an engineer and you see that a part has a defect, and then you put a new part in, and then like 5 minutes later, that same part has the same defect, and they've all been made around the same time in the same factory, why wouldn't you, as an engineer, just treat them all as defect and understanding what they're capable of?
Well,
because they already think that the clones are objects, very similar to how they view droids. So I'm answering my own question.
Okay. Well, I'm actually a little confused by your question because it's not like, because it's not as if like your average clone was defective in any way.
You're right.
So,
but you know they have this brotherhood, right?
Yeah. So you're saying you see the brotherhood as defect as a defect?
It's an opening for the defect. So like if one defect happens and then they express that every last one of them is in danger, right? And they're like, whatever. Like usually when people blow the horn on something like catastrophic, no one believes them at first. But when they start seeing patterns of what that person was saying,
they go AWOL.
They go AWOL. And then it's a domino effect. Because think of it as,
well, no, that's what literally happened.
Yeah.
That's what literally happened.
And that's why I say I was answering my own question, because the dark side's hubris, the Empire's hubris, thought, they're defective, they're not of use to us, throw them away. As if they're not capable of anything other than what they're ordered. Despite you throwing them away, because they're capable of more than.
So yeah, that kind of goes into like another point that I was also going to make a little bit later, was that it was also money.
Yes. Hence slavery.
Yeah, slavery, and it cost a lot of money to make clones,
That's
and realistically, they did not. Even though this is hubris, it's also true. They didn't need an effective military anymore. They weren't fighting any wars. They just needed a uniform group of people. So they were like, well, we have a bunch of planets under our control. We can, for cheaper, just train a bunch of people and put them in uniform, and that'll be an effective police force for our empire, which is why they got rid of the clones, why they were obsolete when they really weren't.
So what you're saying is the Empire is the American government?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was completely a capitalistic choice.
Okay, let me say that louder. Hold on. So what you're saying is the Empire is the American government?
Yes, essentially.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Kind of leading that in that vein, because it was a capitalistic decision to just kind of phase out the clones and just hire and train troopers. We got a bunch of mediocre motherfuckers that can't make a shot.
Well, not only that, but that's another thing. They were phasing out the stormtroopers.
You mean the clone troopers?
I'm sorry, yes. They were phasing out the clone troopers around the time when they were still using Inquisitors to hunt Jedi. Wouldn't you want an effective batch to hunt Jedi?
Well, I think they were just hoping that the Inquisitors were going to be that, and that's it. That's all they needed. Yeah, no, it makes no sense, really.
Hubris.
It's hubris. It's hubris, and to their point, they were like, they were kind of right, technically, because they didn't really need anything other than the Inquisitors and Darth Vader to take out Jedi.
Technically.
Yeah, because unless they were going to go into like a giant battlefield to fight a Jedi, they didn't really need a large group of clones to take out the Jedi, because at this point the Jedi were hiding. So you need a small surgical group, which is the Inquisitors or Darth Vader himself. That scary motherfucker.
True, but the Jedi, in my mind, are more of an ideology. So, like, granted, you found a Jedi, but who knows how many lives they've touched in the meantime?
Well, yeah, but if you remember, the Jedi, the name of the Jedi was destroyed because of the war. People didn't believe in them. So, yeah, like local little small groups of people may have believed it, but the galaxy as a whole saw the Jedi as hypocrites because they were no longer peacekeepers. They saw them as warmongers.
That makes sense.
Then they were seen as traitors, and then it's all the propaganda against them due to Order 66 and the Empire. So yeah. That's kind of why the Jedi were in hiding, because remember in that episode of Ahsoka?
Yeah, I just thought of that when you were saying that.
Yeah, she got sold out. So
I beat his ass. Your whole village died.
Whole village died. There's only 3 of y'all left now.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah. So.
Anyway.
Moving on to episode 4 through 6.
At this point, Luke is a Jedi.
Episode 4, he's beginning his Jedi journey.
Beginning his journey.
The swamp. Yeah, that's
yes.
episode 5.
No.
Yeah.
Wait.
Episode 4
4 is
where he meets
first meet
Obi-Wan.
God.
Well, not he doesn't first meet Obi-Wan.
When we first meet Luke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 5 is where he kind of begins his Force training with Yoda, and he loses his hand. And Episode 6, he's fully a Jedi,
which never made sense to me.
Why not?
How do you progress as a Jedi without a master?
He technically still had a master.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like.
No, I mean, what did you say? I couldn't hear.
I said he technically had a master. Well, he had 2 technically. Because remember, even though Yoda Yoda passed away in Episode 6, but even though like Obi-Wan passed away or at the end of Episode 4, he still could like be his Force ghost and give him guidance in the Force. And then Yoda trained him in Episode 5 for like the physicality of things. And so from there, what happened in other comics, he found holocrons and things to further his knowledge.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, it was self-teaching, but
he went to YouTube University.
Yeah, essentially, he went to Jedi YouTube.
Wow.
He went to DeVry University for Jedi.
Stop.
Yeah.
An online degree.
Yeah, he got his online degree in Jedi.
But yes, not season.
Wow.
Episode 4.
So, yeah, let's just put this out here. That bitch Leia is toxic.
She inherited all the toxic romantic traits from both of her parents. She can't make up her mind. She don't stay her mind. At least not in the age she was in, which was like 18, 19?
Like 19, 20, something like that.
19, so her and Luke were 19, 20.
Yeah.
When episode 4 came out?
Yeah, I would say, around that age.
Okay, so yes, case in point, just like her mom, she didn't know what she wanted from Han,
but at least,
and then used her brother
nasty
to make this man jealous.
That's manipulative.
Manipulative.
That's what I'm saying. She toxic as fuck. She's so toxic for that. Like, she legit kissed her brother, not knowing it was her brother, but kissed her brother in front of Han just to make him jealous. And I was like. And this nigga Luke was so unaware, so innocent of this. You just thinking like, oh yeah, pretty girl kissed me. Oh yeah. And she's just like, yeah, I want that bad boy to be upset about that. I'm just like,
and Luke looks stupid. He's like, I got a kiss.
He had the most shit-eating grin on his face, and I'm just like, you don't realize that you were just used, dumbass.
Baby. Derek. Mm-hmm. Luke was Bolin.
He was fucking Bolin. You are absolutely right. He was Bolin, and Leia was Korra. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, ew.
Yeah.
Ew. Weirdly, I like Han. No, it's not weird. I like Han more than Mako. I love Han more. Like, compared to Mako, I love Han.
Yeah, no, because Han was actually, he was an actual likable person. Mako was not.
Mako was indecisive and confused. He was a child.
Han knew what he wanted. Children. He was just a light skinned nigga in space. That's all. He was just trying to pay hard to get the entire time. He was like, listen, I want her to say that she want me. I ain't gonna admit it. He was just being a light skinned nigga the whole time.
Didn't he have like a girlfriend before this point?
Yeah, he did. He had a girlfriend that tried to kill him.
That's why. That's why.
Nigga was traumatized.
Oh, it's adorable.
It's traumatized.
Yeah, compared to Luke, Leia was the more mature in my mind.
She was. She was the more well-rounded because
she was exposed to more,
and just in terms of just their growing up, Luke got the short end of the stick. You know.
Yeah, truly. Like, there was no other, like, noble family that wanted to adopt a white baby.
No, they were like, he was gonna be a Jedi. We need him to get it out the mud. We gonna have to put him in the sand.
That's fucked up.
We need
he need not build attachments.
Yeah. No.
That's some bullshit.
Because
Leia had just as much potential.
She did. She was,
if not more, because again, compared to Luke, Leia was a feral child to be put into a lord and a lady's hands.
Yeah, she was a handful for sure.
Getting herself kidnapped.
Climbing in the vents, doing all kinds of shit.
Hot wiring fucking battle doors.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
That was not a little girl. She was not 7. She was already like a grown woman at that point. Like she looked like a general.
She was
when
out
those
here,
grown people were talking to her.
She's out here being sassy at fucking 5 years old. Makes no goddamn sense.
What's that girl's name from Game of Thrones that had her own like mini kingdom? So like in the north, when everyone came to the Stark house, there was a little girl.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name though.
Yeah, Ellie from.
Yeah, the one who played Ellie in Last of Us. Yeah, I don't remember what her name was in Game of Thrones. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. No.
That's what she reminds me.
That's what she reminds you of.
Yes.
I can see that.
But not as stern.
No.
The will was there, but not the character.
Yeah, like in terms of like inheritance, like she inherited her mom's like political nature. That's true. But like she 100% got her dad's guts. Like she's a gutsy kid, and even as an adult, that kind of shows up as an adult.
Emotionally mature, which again talks to or says more about Luke because his emotions are like his dad's. Like they seem overwhelming.
Yeah, because he has his dad's impatience. He is kind of quick to anger, but not like to the point of his dad. I just think it's just frustration mostly. But that's normal because especially he actually started being a Jedi much later than his dad. The only difference is all his physical attachments died. That's it. He didn't have, when he started his Jedi training, they were already dead. He didn't have a mama to worry about. Already gone.
Couldn't do nothing.
So yeah, like I said, he inherited his dad's impatience because he was rushing the hell out of Yoda to train him.
Yes, he was.
It was like, and
then feeling dejected.
Yeah, I'm like,
when he couldn't get it right away, I'm like, bro, like it's an entire airship.
Bro, like you're trying to cram what takes mostly like people an entire adolescence. You're trying to cram that all in like a week. You're not gonna get it that fast. It's just not how that works. And that like he just wasn't getting that, which I understand, like, the urgency of the moment and whatnot, but you rushing things doesn't help things.
It doesn't. And Yoda said that.
He did.
Especially when I think he had a vision, of Leia in trouble.
Yeah. He had a vision of Leia in trouble, his friends in trouble.
Right.
And he left Dagobah to go.
Yeah, he had a whole, like, Aang moment when he was trying to unlock his accessibility to the Avatar state. Yeah. It's like, if you leave now, you'll never enter the Avatar state. Like, fuck that. I'm getting my women. Anyway.
Yeah, he was like, I'm going to get my friends. And he lost a hand.
Not just like how he said, but he said, you're going to lose some.
You coming out here, you're going to give us some. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of funny. I'm not sure if that's the same hand that his daddy lost the first time, but like father, like son, I guess.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well, no, wait. Was it the same? Anakin's was his right hand, yeah?
I think Luke was his right hand, too.
Yep. Yeah. Bye.
Later.